Whoa, wee, wah. King in the castle, king in the castle. I have a chair, I have a chair. What's up, guys? It's Nick with Triple Nickel Outdoors. So I got a good one for you today. We're gonna go over and compare three of the top hammocks on the market. We have the Dream Hammock Sparrow, we have the Dutchware Chameleon, and last but not least, we have the Warbonnet Blackbird XLC. This is the newer version. Went through a redesign last year, and that's the newer model. It's got a couple different features than the original Blackbird. So right off the bat, why these three hammocks differ than other hammocks on the market is by their design. They all have an integrated zipper, which allows components to be added or removed depending on what you want to use. So you can add a bug net to them. They all have the ability to have an overcover added to them if you want to get into some winter camping. So there's a lot of versatility and modularity with these three particular hammocks. Also, just the quality of the craftsmanship. You could spend less money and get a cheaper hammock that will serve its purpose, but you'll see as we go over these three particular hammocks, just the attention to detail, the materials that they use, just the overall build is just far superior than a lot of the other stuff that's available right now. Let's grab one of them. I'll set it up, and then we'll go over it and try and compare them as we go along. Okay, so the first hammock up is the Dream Hammock Sparrow. This is the hammock that I've been using for the last couple seasons, so it's the one that I have the most experience with out of the three that we're going to be talking about. I also have the most experience with Dream Hammock as far as a company goes, because before I had the Sparrow, I had a Dream Hammock Thunderbird. And that was another four-season hammock that they no longer offer now. But when I first got into hammock camping, I was debating on whether to get a Dream Hammock Thunderbird or to get the original Blackbird XLC. And I ultimately ended up going with the Dream Hammock because, as we're going to talk about, with the different features of each of the hammock, Dream Hammock just offers a ton more customization to their products than pretty much any of the other hammocks that we're going to be discussing. You can make it exactly how you want it. You could pick out the fabric weight, whatever material you want, the width of it, the accent pieces, the overcover design, like we're going to see. It's endlessly customizable. So I ended up going with the Thunderbird. I ended up going in a 1.6 Hyper D XL fabric cut to a width of 74 inches. And I went with a wider fabric because I'm a bigger guy and I thought that I was going to need that additional width. And I also wanted an overcover. I don't think that the original XLC had an overcover option back when I got it. So that was my initial introduction to hammock camping by using the Thunderbird. I was able to see, to lay in it, to see how all the components worked and basically get over that initial learning curve. And now I wanted to design another hammock that, because I had that initial experience, I could use that information to fine tune my next hammock exactly how I wanted it. And I stayed with Dream Hammock. I ended up getting the Sparrow, and I just made it exactly how I wanted it. I wanted it in a 1.6 Hyper D XL fabric, but instead of going with 74 inches, I went with 67 inches. That plays a big part with me because I am a bigger guy. I do like having a wider hammock. So that's a hammock body that I went with. I ended up going with a specially designed overcover from Outdoor Inc. And I talked to Randy and we were able to make a special vent for it. I customized the zipper hoods, I got zipper pulls, I got colored stitching. Basically, like everything that I could customize on it, I ended up going with this hammock. And it's awesome, man. It's such a nice piece of gear. It's probably one of my favorite things that I have. You're gonna get a pretty wide variety of fabric options from purchasing a Dream Hammock. They have fabrics ranging from a 1.2 weighted fabric all the way up to 2.2. So depending on how light you want your setup to be, depending on how much you weigh and how much support you need, there are different options available if you do decide to go with the Sparrow. Another feature of the Sparrow is that when the bug netting is attached, there isn't a dedicated head or foot end. So the zippers are configured in such a way that when you attach the zippers, they can go on either side of the hammock. So that's a nice feature that it doesn't matter which way you end up attaching it, it can go on either way. The only thing that they need to know at the time of purchase is what type of lay direction you're gonna have the hammock set up in. So I choose to have my hammock in a head left, feet right lay configuration, so that when they're cutting the overcover or the bug net, they know how to cut out that pattern for that asymmetrical lay. Dream Hammock also does offer a symmetrical bug net design. So if that's something that you're interested in, which gives you the availability to lay in either direction, that might be an option that you might want to look into too. And people that toss and turn a lot or aren't sure of which lay direction that they want, the symmetrical bug net design might be beneficial for them. Quick point of interest, I primarily lay with my head left and feet right, but on occasion I have tried to lay in the other direction, and it just feels completely weird. So if you're not sure on how you lay, then the symmetrical netting might be a benefit. But once you do know which direction you lay in, for me at least, it's something that I don't change. So that might be something that helps you out in choosing which lay direction that you go. So that was an overview of my Sparrow. As we're talking about the other two hammocks, I'll refer back to it if there's something that I know in comparison that might be beneficial. But now let's hook up the XLC and we'll go over that hammock. So this is the Blackbird XLC. The XLC is the 11-foot long version of the Blackbird series. The other two hammocks that I have are also 11 feet in length, so they're all comparable as far as their length goes. So first impressions, let's go over the ordering process. When you go online and go to the Warbonnet website, I think it takes like 4 clicks to get the hammock added to your cart. You're going to want to know if you want a single or double layer, and the single layer is only offered in one fabric. It's a 1.7 70 denier ripstop nylon. The double layer has 2 different options. There's a heavyweight double and a lightweight double. Then from there, there's 5 different color selections, and then they want to know what kind of suspension you want, either continuous loops, cinch buckles, or whoopee slings. And that's it. It's a really easy ordering process. Warbonnet found a design that they've liked, that they've stuck with, they've had positive reviews towards. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. So let's get into the hammock itself. The difference between the older version of the Blackbird and the newer version is the zipper configuration. And what the newer version allows is it allows the bug net or the overcover to be completely removed and then flipped over for a change in lay direction. So if you lay with your head left and feet right, you can set it up in that configuration, or for some reason you want to change the lay configuration in the opposite way, you can unzip it completely, flip it over, and it allows you to lay in the opposite lay configuration. Also, this version allows it to be a little bit more modular than the old version because of that removable bug net and overcover. So if you want to start off with the bug net, you can do that. And if at some point you decide that you want to get it overcover, you can purchase that at a later time and you can have that shipped to you and it will fit onto the hammock. The XLC is cut to a width of 62 inches and I found that width really, really comfortable. It's not as wide as my Sparrow. There's not as much room to move around in it. But as far as sleeping throughout the night, getting a comfortable lay, I really, really like that 62-inch width. A couple things that I noticed about it after setting it up is one, the tie-outs are actually on the netting itself and not on the hammock body. That differs than the other two hammocks where the tie-outs are actually on the body of the hammock itself. Having the tie-outs on the netting does a couple things. One, it allows for that netting to be flipped over and then hooked up the other way for that change in lay direction. Another thing is that on the head side, it gets the netting off of your face a little bit better than on the other two hammocks. And then it allows the shelf to be pulled out on the opposite side so that you can utilize that shelf. A couple things with that, you're gonna have to stake it out to get full use of the hammock and all of its features. The other two hammocks I don't really stake out because I don't have the need for it. But in order to utilize all of the features of this hammock, it's in my opinion, better to stake it out and use it that way. Another thing that I noticed is that if you take off the netting, you end up losing that footbox design and the shelf. So if you decide to use it without the net, you're gonna have to find different options as far as storage goes. When we go over the Chameleon, we'll show that there's a couple different storage options. And on my Sparrow, I have a gear sling. That's something that's offered through Dream Hammock. So where, the storage that you're primarily using on the XLC, you're getting through that shelf. If you decide to eliminate that netting, you're gonna be losing that storage. So that's just something that you should note. Another really cool feature is that it has a little piece of ribbon on it that if you roll up the netting, you could tie that off. And it's actually really cool to lounge in this compared to the other two, which is actually the most comfortable as far as lounging. Another great thing about buying this hammock is that Warbonnet designs underquilts specifically made for this version. So if you just wanted to do like a one-stop shop kind of thing, you have the opportunity to buy a hammock, buy the underquilts. They also make tarps. So it's like one of those one-stop shop kind of experiences where you don't have to go anywhere else. You can get everything that you need in one place. All right, so that's two hammocks down. Let's hook up the Chameleon now and we'll go over that one. So last but not least, we have the Dutchware Chameleon, and this is gonna be the most modular out of the three hammocks. And by modular, I mean it allows you to add components whenever you want at any point in time. The amount of stuff that Dutch has available for this thing it's insane. So you can start with just the hammock body itself, and then from there you can add a bug net, you can add an overcover, you can add a sidecar, you can add a side sling. There's just an endless amount of ways that you can outfit this hammock. There's two different versions available of the Chameleon also. There's the standard width version and the wide version. So standard width, which is the one that I have, is 58 inches, and the wide version is 67 inches. That's a good comparison to my Sparrow because I have a 67-inch Sparrow and love it. So I can only imagine that the 67-inch Chameleon is equally as comfortable. I ended up going with the standard version, mainly because I wanted to see if I could get comfortable in that width. And for the most part, it is comfortable. I did notice it was a little bit more narrow and a little bit tighter than the other two for obvious reasons. I don't want to say it's uncomfortable, but it's not as comfortable as the other two hammocks. That's not a knock on the hammock itself. I just think that for my body stature, that a wider hammock just gives me a little bit more comfort than the standard width. I got this in a 1.6 Hexon is the name of the material. And out of the three hammock materials, I think that I like the Hexon the best. It almost has like a soft cottony feel to it. The XLC is made in it almost feels like a silky kind of material, and the Hyper D fabric on my Dream hammock is like a softer kind of ripstop nylon. They're all comfortable and they're all good to lay in. They're all comfortable to lay in, but I just like the overall feel of that soft cotton the most out of the Hexon. Another cool feature of the Chameleon is the way that the zippers are designed. They use something called a vision zipper, and what that allows is the zippers to be placed anywhere along the zipper line, but it also allows the overcover or bug net or any other accessory that you're using to be connected on either side of the hammock. So depending on how you want the zippers placed and what lay direction you're going to lay in, it doesn't matter because the zippers are interchangeable on either side. So if you're going to lay with your head left and feet right and want to change up that lay direction, you can flip the netting over and change it to a head right, feet left. If you want to change it to the head end on one end or the opposite end, you could then flip it over and they can attach at the opposite end of the hammock. The Chameleon does offer a symmetrical bug net also. So the Chameleon and the Sparrow both offer symmetrical bug net options. The XLC is going to be the only one that is dedicated lay in either a right or left hand lay. The Chameleon has the widest range of fabric options. They offer fabrics from 1.0 all the way up to 2.4. So if you're looking for a really lightweight setup, this will probably be the way to go. The Dream Hammock is offered in a 1.2 MTN Mountain XL fabric. It used to be the Robic XL. So they do have lightweight options available. But if you did want to get that 1.0 weight fabric, the Chameleon's going to be the way to go. I ended up getting some accessories for the Chameleon. So I got it with a peak shelf and I got it with a sidecar. The sidecar is similar to the shelf in the XLC. It's a great place to store some odds and ends, your jackets and things like that. I find myself not using it as often as I would, so I ended up removing it. And I primarily use the peak shelf for my storage option because I can store most of the stuff that I need out with me, and then you could tie it back and get it out of your way. So that's a really nice feature. Dream Hammock does offer a peak shelf also, but the way that theirs is designed is it's actually sewn into the hammock body. So if you didn't get it at time of purchase, you'd have to actually send your hammock back and have them install it for you. The peak shelf on the Chameleon is part of the whole system. So you can get it after the fact, have them send it to you, and you can install it yourself by the way that all the loops and hooks are. I'm really impressed with the Chameleon. I do like the modularity. I do like the fact that you can interchange all of these different things. But out of the three hammocks, this is the one that I think has the most fails on it. First thing is the ridgeline is a Zingit ridgeline, and not saying that it's not structurally sound, but the other two hammocks are made with an Amsteel ridgeline. And I just really think the Amsteel ridgeline kind of cleans up the hammock. It makes it feel a little bit more put together. So I really think that, I really wish that this thing had an Amsteel ridgeline on it. I kind of understand the reason behind it because even though the Zingit is structurally sound, they're trying to save weight by using this Zingit. So I get it. I'm not saying that it's not going to hold you, but I just like the feel and like the look of having that Amsteel ridgeline. And the second thing is, this thing has rings and hooks around the whole entire hammock body. So I get the reason why they did it, because they're trying to accommodate all different lay angles and all different head positions. Because in this hammock, you can put your head left or right, you can put your feet right or left, you can put your head on either side. So in order to accommodate all of these different lay directions, they just wanted to have the availability to have all the hooks positioned throughout the hammock, so that no matter how you end up laying in it, there is something for you to hook those different accessories on. I think why this annoys me is because in hammock camping, or just, in this industry in general, everything has to have a purpose. And because I'm looking around at all of these different rings positioned throughout the hammock and I don't have a use for them, I just think that it's added weight and added pieces that I'm not really utilizing. So for me, it's just like a mental thing that it kind of like rubs me the wrong way. But I get it. I get why they're on there. It's just for me, I might end up cutting off 95% of them and just using the 2 or 3 that I ended up, needing. So we went over most of the features of all 3 of the hammocks. A couple of the pieces of information that might be of use. One, the price. So if you're going to build an XLC with just the netting and all the standard stuff that comes with it, it's going to be a base price of $180. If you decide to add an overcover to your hammock, that's $90 additional fee. So that's actually the most expensive build out of the 3 of the hammocks. If you get the Chameleon, I priced out just a standard hammock in 1.6 hexagon material, bug net, no overcover. That's going to be $160. And then if you did want to add an overcover, the ASIM bug netting is $55 and a symmetrical net is $60. So a little bit cheaper than the XLC, and a couple other options, like I said, you can add on later on. And the Sparrow, for a 1.6 build, bare bones, nothing added, it's coming in at $185. If you did want to get it with the overcover included, that's an additional $40. So they're all comparable in their price. They're not too far off from one another, so price really isn't that big of a difference. All 3 of the hammocks are available in a double layer. The XLC does have those 2 options. You can mix and match any of the fabrics available off of the Chameleon and the Sparrow. So just look at what materials they have available, and you can mix and match those pieces and get a combination that's right for your setup. I didn't really talk about weights in this video because it's really subjective to what you end up getting. The Chameleon's going to give you the lightest option at that 1.0 weighted fabric. The Sparrow's right behind it at a 1.2 weight, and then the XLC, because it's standard, at that 1.7 is the heaviest option. But depending on what you end up going with will really dictate the final weight of your overall setup. So that's pretty much it. Honestly, I would recommend any of these hammocks to anyone that asks me about them. I don't think you can go wrong with any one. If I had to give a quick recommendation, I would say that if you're new to hammock camping across the board, I think you'd be happy with any one. If you want more standard features and don't really care about fiddling with that much and just want everything, a quality piece of gear right off the bat, I would recommend the XLC. If you wanted to start a little bit more bare bones and add pieces along the way as you're learning how to use those pieces, then I would say get the Chameleon. And if you know what you want to have it customized, you want to have some influence on all the different pieces that you can put into your system, then I would recommend the Sparrow. But at the end of the day, you're hammocking, you're out there, it's all good. That was a lot of information. I'm sure that I left out a bunch of stuff. So if you have anything to add to the conversation, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. Other than that, this is Nick with Triple Nickel Outdoors. Get out there and hang.